Diolch yn fawr. Thank you very much for the invitation. So just to give you a little bit of background about the work, the Language Technologies Unit is a primarily self-funded unit, research unit at Bangor University. We have a mixed team, a multidisciplinary team of researchers, including software developers and linguists, and we develop a range of technologies, including speech recognition models, synthetic voices, machine translation, and recently as well we've been fine-tuning AI large language models for the first time, and we primarily work with Welsh and English text and speech and so on, but we also do a little work with some of our Celtic colleagues as well. So primarily what we try and do are two different things in a way. We develop building blocks for software developers and for companies, be they local to Wales or multinational companies as well. And those building blocks are aimed at being a part of the linguistic infrastructure here in Wales. And we are primarily funded by the Welsh Government to that effect. But we also produce software products for end users, so they can be apps or websites or services. So these are just a few examples of some of the apps that we have. So we have a dictionary app that's been downloaded over 400,000 times. The Maxen app in the middle is our kind of Alexa-style app, a kind of personal assistant type of thing. And at the end here is a Cornish version of the app geared on the dictionaries app that we've developed alongside our Cornish friends who have produced the linguistic side of the app, but we've developed the infrastructure to enable that to be distributed. So just to move on to the Maxen app, this is, as I said, an Alexa-style assistant. And in a way, the aim of that app was to serve as a demonstrator of the building blocks that we develop. So a lot of the language models, the synthetic voices, we could bring all of those together in one app to just show people how they could potentially be used. So I'll just give you a quick demo of this in action. So this is a bilingual speech recognition model that we've trained, and it understands both Welsh and English, and in this case it's understanding English, I think, and then translating.
Although I am similar to Alexa, I can speak English and Welsh.
Ydyn nhw yn debyg i Alexa, gallaf siarad Saesneg a Chymraeg.
I am bilingual.
With a ddwyieithog.
And there it's just clicking into a dictionary app, terminology dictionary app that we have also developed. So you could see there that we're using a pipeline of different models, a speech recognition model feeding the text that's been recognized onto a translation model that we've developed. I have to apologize for the quality of the audio here. The voices don't sound like the Borg, unfortunately. It came out that way, sorry.
Helo, pwy wyt ti a beth wyt ti?
Dy enw i fi Maxen. Rwy'n gynorthwyr llais Cymraeg. Beth allaf i'ch helpu chi ageth?
Pa mor bell mae Aberystwyth o Gaerdydd?
Mae Aberystwyth tua 111 km i'r gogledd o Llewn o Gaerdydd.
So what you've just seen is a colleague of mine using the functionality as a kind of chatbot and asking how far Aberystwyth is from Cardiff and receiving an answer. So what we're using there is a ChatGPT in the background, and we're sending the recognized text over the internet to ChatGPT and getting a reasonable answer back from it. Yeah, just to go back to the building blocks, what we do when we develop these is distribute them using platforms such as GitHub and Hugging Face. This is our Hugging Face page, and you can see a lot of the speech recognition models, machine translation models that you can just download, and they're open permissive licenses. So the licenses such as MIT and Apache that allow you to use them pretty much in any way that you'd like. There are also demos along the bottom of some of our cloned voices and the fine-tuned AI model there, the mimic icon with the fish at the bottom. But what you have here as well is the models at the top, and then you have the data sets that we've used to train them. So we've made the data sets available under open licenses as well. So OGL licenses or CC0 licenses in a number of cases. So the idea is that any company could come and use the data and train their own models if they'd like to. But Hugging Face also allows us to link the models to the data sets used, so you can actually see what we've done. So it's quite transparent in that way. One of the ways that we trained the speech recognition model was to get in early in the Common Voice project. This is a project that Mozilla started a number of years ago now, and we were able to get Welsh in as, I think, the 4th language, because one of our software developers was at a conference in San Francisco at the time. And we've now managed to collect, with Mozilla, 159 hours of audio through the Common Voice interface, which shows you a number of prompts, and then people are so this is a crowdsourcing platform, and people then contribute. They read out the text, and it goes into the data. The issue there is that it's read text and not spontaneous text. So we needed to then try and source our own transcription bank of spontaneous text. So we did that by going after podcasts in the Welsh language, and asking, mostly amateur podcasts, and asking permission from the contributors and the owners of the podcast to be able to transcribe and then jumble up the segments produced and redistribute those segments as training data. So we've now transcribed 48 hours. We've used the verbatim style of transcription that reflects the actual sound used, because we're using this with some frameworks where you have to train from scratch rather than fine-tune models. We have 2 full-time researchers, and we're using increasingly interns, students at the university to help with the transcription as well. And the interns are funded by the Welsh Local Government Association. That's just a zoomed-in view of the transcription, and you can see that English have been encapsulated by asterisks, and it's quite a kind of a verbatim sound for sound transcription style, but still using Welsh orthography. So we've trained Whisper models based on the OpenAI models. Those are fine-tuned models. We've also trained WAV2VEC models from Meta, and Caldi models that are better at live transcription. And all of these models have different strengths and weaknesses. So this is an example of a model on Hugging Face, and you can see in the center there the word error rate, so the WER, so it's getting around 29% of the words incorrect on that particular test case, but the results are actually, in practice, pretty good. So obviously you need to be a Welsh reader to be able to understand these, but if I just jump forwards, I've run some of the segments through a machine translation service, and you can see that that's quite readable. There are a few errors there. There's a lack of negation, I think, in the first segment that kind of changes the entire meaning. But for us, this has created a really valuable research corpus, and what we're trying to do as a next step is to normalize a lot of the transcriptions and identify where the particular weaknesses are. But part of the issue here is that there's no standardized form for a lot of these words that we're encountering that are being used on a daily basis in Welsh, and a question of whether or not a word has become a Welsh word once it's been borrowed from English, or should it still be written using English orthography. Words like actually are used by all Welsh speakers probably in their Welsh speech, and we need to discuss as a nation how we want to be writing these forms and using them in different contexts. So we've also created this website called Trawsgrifiwr or Transcriber, which allows you to correct the transcriptions. It segments the text, so you can see here that's the next segment to come, and you can edit that segment and it'll produce an SRT subtitling file for you, and that's a free service that we offer. So that's the sound that was transcribed there. So challenges are mostly non-technical. They're things such as linguistic issues, the need to standardise the informal register, to get more dialectal forms into the training corpus, and getting on top of the code switching that happens between English and Welsh within the same sentences. Just to stress, what we're trying to do here really is to produce bilingual models that are capable of transcribing both English and Welsh at the same time, because that's the only practical way forwards, because we change languages, mix them up so often. So the legal issues such as copyright and licensing have been problematic as well, and that's primarily why we've gone after podcasts and television companies rather than having success going after maybe legacy data, because the requirements for indemnity and GDPR issues have been insurmountable so far. What we want to do at the end of the day is to make it as easy as possible for local companies and multinational companies to use the data, and that means permissive licenses and not charging them. We want there to be no excuse not to include Welsh in software such as Microsoft Teams, for example. And there we've had some luck along with the Welsh Government, because we've noticed in the past month or so that it seems as if our data is now being used in the models, because some of the verbatim forms that only ourselves use are coming out in the output, and we've seen a massive jump in the quality of the Microsoft Teams transcription recently. So it does serve as an example of how open data can help less resourced languages. So to conclude then, we've made great progress, not just ourselves, but the field in general in terms of Welsh language technology. Welsh is part of AI models such as Copilot, ChatGPT, Claude. We're not resource poor here in Wales. I think a lot of legal issues are currently holding us back in terms of using the resources that we have, and we need to try and solve those issues. But the current bottleneck is the capacity that we have to transcribe, so we need to fund more transcription. There's no point in us getting more data if we don't have the capacity to transcribe that data. We need wider discussion amongst the community, including the media community, as to how we write Welsh when it's used colloquially. We're in a pretty good situation, I think, at the moment. We've developed a corpus that we can use as a research tool to improve the quality of the output, and it's a case of trying to promote what we already have. So I think that's the end of the presentation. So thank you very much for your attention.